because I know in a moment we'll be joined by Jay and, of course, Gene, who's going to help us lead the conversation here. But something that people often ask me is, who is somebody that they should study to help increase the quality of their business, increase not just the quality of their business, but as entrepreneurs, the quality of their lives? And I tell people Jay Abraham. And one of the strategies that we actually practice here at the LA Tribune, whether our team recognizes it or not, is the strategy of preeminence. In fact, this entire leadership week is an example of the strategy of preeminence manifested. If you look at what we've done here with the LA Leadership Week, from top to with the marketing and with the setup, we've applied the strategy of preeminence. And so I personally have been a student of Jay Abraham. He's been a mentor from afar. And I'm excited now to be able to actually engage in a conversation with a man that I believe is at the top of the list when it comes to a fundamental level of knowledge and wisdom. And quite frankly, every time I listen to Jay Abraham, I find myself sounding a lot more articulate. I always learn a couple words that I previously did not know existed in the English dictionary. And so for a multitude of reasons, I'm excited to spend some time with Jay. But with that being said, Jim, how excited are you for the next segment?
Well, listen, the first time I met Jay and was back when I was the brand new vice president of sales for Tony Robbins, and we were out in Fiji, and for some reason we got stuck on how to proceed in our business model. And Tony made one call: Jay, you need to come out here to Fiji and help us sort this thing out. And boom, Jay was there that night. And for the next 6 days, I just sat in 5 days. I sat in amazement, not only because of the wisdom that the man had and how much Tony was so appreciative. And I could see the effect that Jay had on Tony, on everyone in the room. But just coming from a humanistic standpoint, what a great guy. Just a genuine down-to-earth personality. And that's one of the things that impressed me the most. I mean, he was shooting basketball with us. He was, we just had a great time together. So,
and speaking of what a great guy he is, Jim, yeah, he has supplied so much educational content for entrepreneurs over the years, completely free of charge. In fact, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I remember visiting his website, and I couldn't believe how much incredible material Jay Abraham offered absolutely for free. And so we're going to take a quick break, watch a video, and then we'll be back. And I know Gene is going to also join us in a couple minutes to help facilitate this next segment.
Jay Abraham, a marketing legend, mentor to mentors, and the highest paid marketing consultant in the world.
He's the go-to guy now. And I got to say, if you think of most of the marketing consultants that you probably don't know the name of, they've all been influenced by Jay.
I probably wouldn't be here without my mentor, Jay Abraham. Through, his teachings and what he's done for me, he's taught me how to position myself in very unique positions. What is my unique offering, as well as the ability to communicate.
Jay Abraham has significantly increased the bottom line of over 10,000 clients and over 400 industries worldwide.
Jay has had a tremendous influence on my business. Not just my business, but really the deep ways in which I think about my students, my readers, my clients, my customers.
His books have profoundly influenced my ability to grow Bulletproof, and his personal mentorship and his one-on-one sessions with me have absolutely changed the game for me and for Bulletproof and for our mission to change the world.
Forbes magazine called him the real thing and lists Jay as one of the top 5 executive coaches in the country. He's also a best-selling author and has been featured in USA Today, The New York Times, Inc., and Success, among many others.
Life is a series of mentors, and Jay Abraham is absolutely the best in that area.
And with that, Jim, let's go ahead and welcome Mr. Jay Abraham to the LA Leadership Week.
Sure you can see me. So let me get centered so I look reverse on this. Let's make sure that you can that way.
You look very
wonderful. We can see you, and
don't worry about it.
Gene will be joining us here in a couple minutes. But Jay, first of all, I wanted to thank you for 2 things. Of course, I wanted to thank you for your time and for being a part of the LA Tribune Leadership Week. But more importantly than that, I wanted to thank you for bringing the strategy of preeminence to the world and to entrepreneurs. I think it is one of the most important and fundamental strategies for an entrepreneur that wants to be successful, to be able to learn and apply to their lives and to their businesses. So I wanted to start off with that and just let you know how much we appreciate you and the strategy of preeminence. And what does leadership mean for you personally, Jay Abraham, to kick it off and open up?
Wow, what a great question. And by the way, thank you so much. Just a parenthetical comment before I answer your question. The strategy of preeminence is something that I very fortuitously was able to give birth to 15, 20 years ago. And it was really, it was fate changing for a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs because it connected the dots. And it was both a strategic philosophy and a philosophical strategy that became the underpinning of their culture, their belief system, their message to the market. It was something that galvanized and animated the spirits of their team members. So they were all on. Oh, sorry. Can you see my head? Because I'm seeing it. I want to make sure that you can. I don't look silly here. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That it galvanized their team, so they were all on a unified crusade mission in behalf of the betterment of their market, and it elevated tremendously the whole positioning and the way their team and their people and their product and their company were seen. Excuse me again. And it's evolved, but it's really good. And thank you so much for acknowledging that. Now, to talk about leadership. Leadership it's a complex concept, Mo and Jim. I think it has to do with being a combination of a visionary, an advocate, a champion, a benefactor for not just the people who pay you, but the people you pay. A true leader is on a mission to grow the value he or she creates for the totality of the market. It's got a holistic sort of a context, meaning you want to make your buyers, your clients, as we call them, better off, enriched, protected, enhanced. But you want to grow and develop the success, the capability of your team. And optimally, you want to have the most collaborative connection and relationship you can with all your vendors so that you're all collaborating and supporting and enhancing and contributing to the success of the business because it's bringing more value to the market. It's sort of an interesting concept. I don't know if that's a little too abstract or not.
Thank you for that, Jay. And I want to welcome our audience again to the LA Leadership Week. Yesterday, the New York Weekly did an expose calling this event perhaps the greatest lineup in the history of personal development. Their words, not mine. And Jay Abraham is at the top of the list of people we're honored to have as a part of this. I want to welcome to the screen Gene. Gene, welcome. I know you're going to help co-host and co-facilitate the time we have with Mr. Jay Abraham. And I really want this to be about the strategy of preeminence, leading life with the strategy of preeminence. I want to give the audience an opportunity to get the insights from Jay Abraham that they may or may not have been exposed to previously. So let's really make something special and deep today and focus on more of the advanced entrepreneurs that are watching. With that being said, Gene, if you have any opening statements or a question for Mr. Jay, welcome to the stage, please.
Mo, I'm in full agreement with you. Let's make this an epic 45 minutes. Before I get started and we get into Jay's brilliance, I just got to say I have not been on all the sessions the last 2 days, but the sessions I've been on, you've had Les Brown, you've had Mark Victor Hansen, you now have the great Jay Abraham, what I would call living legends, all within less than a 24-hour period. I don't know how you put it all together this way. I just want to congratulate you and the LA Tribune team for making this happen and adding value to so many people out there. Now, I'm excited to work with and talk with Jay again. We're colleagues. We've worked on clients together and met through Tony Robbins. And I know at the end of this, Jay's going to give away a book to everybody. There's going to be a link when he's done. So be prepared to write that down. And with that said, Mo, let's get rocking and rolling.
Thank you for that, Gene, and I appreciate it. And of course, Jay is in the lineup alongside Robert Cialdini, Seth Godin, and so many other names. But we don't have time to list out the names because we have limited time with Jay. And so with that, Mr. Jim Miller, kick it off with the first question for Jay Abraham.
Well, I'd first like to acknowledge that the fact that Jay Abraham is here with the Los Angeles Tribune in our Leadership Week attracts people to want to be involved in the Los Angeles Tribune Leadership Week. So, Jay, you have an enormous influence on virtually anybody and everybody that's in the space, certainly of personal development, and more importantly, not only the content of your work, but also your integrity. And so the first thing that I want to talk about, and I know I read a few of the interviews that you have done just to prepare for this, and one question was asked, and that was, what question do I have to ask you in order for this to be the best interview you've ever had? And you indicated, well, as long as it's not about business and more about the way that I think, my view of the world, and my philosophy. So I want to start there, and I want to ask you a question, and that is this. I'm going to go right to the core of why I'm here, and that's for the young people, the younger generation that are seeing that will never, ever have an opportunity to work one-on-one with Jay Abraham, but have heard of you, and now they get the opportunity to sit right across from you and to ask you one question. And I'm going to ask that question. It is, how do I get the belief system that I too can be a leader like you one day? Where does it start? What do I have to do? What is it about leadership that you, as a fatherly, even a grandfatherly, I dare say,
you're not flattering my ego, but you are acknowledging my age.
I stop there.
I give you a hall pass.
Yeah, generationally, I'll stop there, Jay.
It's okay. I've been around a long time.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, what would you say to them? What is it that you would give an advice to the younger people out there that maybe this is their first encounter with Jay Abraham, or maybe they know you as the legend you are and would love to hear advice specifically to them?
Yeah, well, I think that I've been blessed, Jim. I think it's a profound question. Mm-hmm. I've been blessed in two ways. 90% of the work I've done and the influencers I've had have been people who were either at the top of their game ethically and on an integrity basis. Also, they've been people who've been fanatically obsessive almost about adding value to their market, either in filling a void that wasn't filled or taking something that existed to a much higher level of beneficial contribution. So I think I've been, and also I've been very blessed. You talk about experts. I've helped, and this is just clinical, over 300 of the world's top experts in my life, in a broad spectrum of hard and soft skills. And I've been very impacted by human performance. And I think that one thing I stand for is a more holistic, integrative, true business building, as opposed to being in a silo. But I think that if I was a young person trying to start out as either an entrepreneur or progress through, the rungs of an organization or many organizations, the first thing I would do is master a couple of things. First of all, listening. Then I would understand how to appreciate what others are saying. A lot of times people don't really listen. They're so busy wanting to get their message. I would basically try to recognize that your responsibility is to make people better off because you're in their lives, whether it be your coworkers, anybody that your company serves. I would probably really get clear on value creation to the other side. Oftentimes, Jim, Mo, everybody else on the call is that literally, most people don't have a comprehensive understanding of what value means to the other side. I am sitting here trying to give you my interpretations of valuable answers. I think they're important, but your people might go, that makes no sense, Jay. So getting aligned with how the other side sees value is very important. Also, collaboration is a lost skill. Connection is a lost skill. There are soft skills that are really interesting. Stephen M.R. Covey, I don't know if he's on your roster or not. He's the world authority on corporate trust building. And he's analyzed that if you can learn to master, I think everyone should read Speed of Trust and Smart Trust, two really wonderful books. And Gene, I don't know if you've read them or not, but they teach that most people think they've got a very good level of trust and authority with the other side, and they have a very weak one. There's 13 characteristics he identified. And if you master them authentically, if you do it superficially and inauthentically, it's very evident. But if you do it authentically and it becomes a natural part of your being, what he said is your business, you can get a 300% increase in everything. Collaboration, shorten timelines if you're selling, get vendors excited, get stakeholders excited. But there's about 20 soft skills that if I were young, I'd want to master. Things like trust building, strategic communication, listening, collaboration, operational efficiency, the role of a leader. And I think you're always two things in life. And this is not just in business, it's in life. You're a student and a teacher, you're a leader and a follower. And if you try to be just one and not the other, and you don't have the duality, you'll be rigid and you won't have what I'll call the completion of the understanding and the power that resides within this sort of integrative, holistic, I may be too abstract. I've been privileged to be exposed to some wonderful leaders. All of them are committed to the betterment of both sides, their target audience, their team members. A lot of entrepreneurs started out and they're autocratic, they're self-consumed, they want to make a lot of money, they're not very aware that every one of their team members are equally struggling with hopes, dreams, issues, financial health. They're all husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, lovers, parents. And when you appreciate that this is an integrated dynamic that only works if you are committed to everyone's successful outcome. And we have a very interesting friend who did a treatise one time. He said, you're either a multiplier or a diminisher as a leader. You're either making people better, stronger. You're adding value. You're developing, encouraging, or you're diminishing, or you're breaking things down. And it's only one or the other. It's sort of, to be very sophisticated, it's really quantum physics. You're expanding or contracting, you're growing or dying, and a leader has to grow himself or herself while concurrently growing both their team, their capability, and the value their company, their product, their people add to the market. Everybody has to be on a crusade and a mission in behalf of their prospects. If you fall in love with your company instead of the people you serve, both sides, you're going to be suboptimal. I hope this makes sense, because I'm a little more maybe holistic and abstract than most people.
You're making total sense, even through your abstraction and holisticness. But I wanted to ask you this one question, and I'm going to pass it on to Gene, who has got some extraordinary questions for you, and that is this: what you're talking about, this need to love the individuals, to love the value that you're creating for the other as opposed to the business itself, the money. Like, for example, when you go on social media and you look at entrepreneurs today, the celebration that they have of their team members is how much money they made for them, right? This is a typical celebration, as opposed to celebrating the individual separate from that. My question is this: do you have to be born a compassionate, loving person in order to display the type of characteristics that you're talking about, Jay? Or is this something that can be learned, or is it both?
Well, I mean, originally I was born in a Orthodox Jewish family. I'm not very devout at all anymore. We probably had an inherent sort of a foundational DNA, but I didn't understand this until I was exposed to entrepreneurs who did me the greatest service ever in my life. Two of them. One was constantly preaching to me, we are here to make our market better. We are here to make our market better. That's the first one. The second one, really interesting. I was too talented for my own good when I was young. I made a lot of money and I could have gone to the dark side. And another mentor took me aside and said, Jay, I'm going to give you the most important lesson of your life. Here goes. You can lose all your money, and if you keep your integrity, somebody will always back you. However, if you keep your money and you sell out your integrity, you'll never get it back. And that shocked me. I spent hours afterwards pondering it, and it shifted tremendously the trajectory and the purpose and basis of my life career. I think that empathy, if you look at empathy, people think that vulnerability, empathy is a weakness. It's a strength. Part of preeminence is showing people you feel what they feel, putting in words in ways that have never been expressed, that you really understand what they're trying to get away from or closer to. If you look at all of life, and it's certainly business, but it's in any personal relationship, we are rewarded in direct proportion to the quantity, quality, and consistency of problems we solve and opportunities we make possible for others. I mean, everything is that. Love is nothing more than solving a problem. Who will share my life? Who will make me complete? Who will protect me or provide security? Who will make me laugh? Who will give me physical satisfaction? Who will be a great father? These are problems and solutions. Everything is that. When you understand it, without empathy, you are really you're constrained in your performance, in your capability, in your. I don't see how you could possibly be optimally successful with having empathic understanding of the world you're living in and what's going on, and appreciating the differential of mindsets. If there are 10,000 people watching this now, you have 10,000 different realities. Pardon me. Any word, Jim, Gene, Mo, that I utter, any concept I express is predicated on my experiences, my mental imagery. Somebody else is hearing it totally different because they don't define it the same way. Until I understand your reality, until I have appreciation, I explore, examine, and acknowledge how you see life, there'll never be a connection. I'll never be able to sell you to the maximum. I'll never be able to help you grow and help you contribute. I'll never be able to connect at the maximum. And you can only go so far with fear. Collaboration can't occur without appreciation.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. Thank you for that, Jay. And we can see how important it was to you to encounter a leader who had the courage and the wisdom to break into your reality as a young man and plant that seed that you, like you said, you spent the rest of the day in pondering and contemplating, and it seems like it might have shaped somewhat the trajectory of your life.
It absolutely did. It shifted it totally, and I became almost on a mission of my own, obsessed with making sure that anytime I ever interacted with anybody, Jim, for any reason, even if it was a nominal amount of time, I made them and left them better off, whether it's a smile, whether it's listening, whether it's showing that I remember their children, whether it's asking about some life issue that connected them. I see my role in life making people better off. Now, is that totally altruistic? Not really. Being selfless is the most selfish thing you can do if you want to accomplish a lot of stuff.
Ah, very interesting. Gene, I know you're waiting with some questions. So please, Gene, who also too, Vice President of Sales at Tony Robbins, and with Chet Holmes, and with many others, a man who has been associated with a lot of legends and worked with you as well, Jay. So, Gene, take it off.
Thank you, Jim. Jay, I'm a fan first and a friend. I've been following your blogs. I've been following you on social media. It's pure gold. Almost every single day, there's a new piece of gold that shows up. So I want to encourage everybody to make sure you're following Jay if you're in the leadership and the marketing, the sales, the business world. And this can help you in life as well. One of the pieces of content that I've read and reread and keep going back to is what you call the Magnificent Seven. Would you mind covering some of that now?
No, I'll be happy to. But I'm going to, because I only talk about it rarely. You'd pre-asked me to talk about it, so let me make sure I have it for you.
Okay.
So,
so good. It's just so
rich. Pardon me. So just as context, I've been very blessed. I've been able to, I guess I'd call it pioneer and develop about 97 different categories of methodologies that have the capacity to propel performance, outsized, exponential, hyper growth. And 7 of them, I think, are fundamental. And I talk about them when I'm with Tony. I talk about them in certain keynotes. I still do. And I call them the 7 magnificent steps to create extraordinary success and business wealth. The first one is the strategy of preeminence. Because of the shortness of time, I'll just give an outer periphery on it. But the strategy of preeminence starts with a commitment that you want your business to be seen in the eyes of your target audience as the most trusted advisor they could turn to for life, the only viable solution they could turn to in the category. In order to do that, you have to be able to show them that you understand what they're going through. You feel what they feel. You know where they're trying to get closer or further from. You got to put into words what they are trying to feel. And there's a really powerful way to do it. If I have time, when I get to the end, I'll give you a methodology that is mind-blowingly powerful to understand how to resonate with your market better than anybody you could compete against, and better than any copywriter could ever articulate. You want to be able, if you're going to be preeminent, you're on a mission to be an advisor, not an order taker. By that I mean, you can't allow anybody to buy less than they should or more than they should, unless quantity, quality, consistency, or combination they should, not because you're going to be denied a profit, but because they'll be denied the optimal and the maximum outcome. We used to when I used to do seminars, and this is this won't do it exactly, but I would say, let's say, Gene, you came into Jay Abraham's bottled water shop and water bar, and you asked to buy let's presume this was a half a bottle of water. And I took your money smiling and went on to the next person. If I know that you need 7.5 more bottles every day to nourish your being, to quench the need of your cellular structure, to keep your mental acuity focused, to get your stress level down, to make sure your digestion elimination is at optimal, your sleep is the deepest, most restful. And I don't at least go out of my way as your advisor to tell you and make sure first you're aware, and preferably you buy it from me, not because I want to sell you 7.5 more, but because you need 7.5 more. At least I have to do my part and make sure you're aware. If you opt after that awareness not to do it, so be it. If you buy 8 a day, but you only come every other day and I don't intervene again, being preeminent is not disseminating information. It's all about advice, what you really believe and why. It's about falling in love with the client, not just your business or your industry or your products or being the fastest growing company. It's about being able to make analogies to people in metaphoric way. Metaphors, similes, analogies are how you make points to people that they really grasp. It's about basically knowing that you don't want to call somebody a customer. This is really a tricky one because everyone calls their buyer a customer. If you look up in Webster's dictionary what a customer really is, it's somebody who buys a commodity or a service. In truth, a customer is saying you're no better than any other company, and if you get business, you're a lucky son of a gun. A client is somebody under the care, the protection, the well-being. It's got a fiduciary connotation and it elevates people. You've got 3 categories of clients: the ones you pay and the ones that pay you and the 2 you pay. The ones that pay you, obviously, your clients, the market. The ones you pay are your team members and your vendors and advisors. And you want to do everything in your power to grow and develop them instead of squeeze everything out. I can go on and on and on, but that's preeminence, and that's the first one. And you want to make that the driver of everything you're doing. You want to make sure that everybody in your organization is on a mission, a crusade. Even if they're answering the phone, they see that that's relevant. If they're customer service, they see that's relevant. If they're delivering the product, they see they're part of the completion of the purpose, and they feel excited. And you almost want to say every morning when they come in, how many lives are we going to transform today? Even if you're just a vendor selling ice cream in the park, you want to appreciate that for 15 minutes, if you're over in where the offices are, you want to make sure you have the best ice cream, the best cone. You're not going to shorten the taste, because you want the best experience for them. It's experiential, and you want to radiate and be fulfilled in the knowledge that for 15 minutes in somebody's very stressful life, you're giving them solace. You're giving a chance to go back to their child and have a sense of reflection on innocence. And you want to really connect. I can go on and on, but preeminence it becomes, when you take it to its fullest extreme, and I'm giving you the outer periphery, it takes 3 hours to fully explain it. It becomes your culture. It becomes your message to market. It becomes your ads. It becomes how you live your life. It also, and I didn't say this, but you've got to also commit to always try to examine, evaluate, appreciate, understand, respect, acknowledge how other people see life, even if it doesn't conform with you, because you're dealing constantly with other people, buyers, vendors, employees. Until you understand empathically, you can't do anything. And coming right back to the thematic basis of this whole project you all are doing here, everything about preeminence is leadership. It's being seen as a leader who has the very best interests of the other side in mind. Human beings are silently begging to be led. We really are. However, there's a caveat. We want to be led only by someone or some entity we believe with absolute certainty has our best interest ahead of their own. And as I said, that's not as noble as it seems. It's really good business. So you want to be preeminent, and preeminence overflows. It's contagious. It ends up being how you live your life with your loved ones, your friends, your community. It's a very liberating and a very elevating way to operate way, way, way at a higher strata as your competitors. So that's the first thing, and I just lost my notes. The second thing, hold on, is some of my classic stuff, but it's really powerful. And the next is my 3-way to grow a business model. And Early in my career, I was equally blessed because I had somebody who was mathematically sophisticated show me a connection I'd never made before. And I realized that the same effort, the same time, the same opportunity, the same resources, capital, human capital, relationship capital, could be used to get an incremental growth or an exponential one. So we started operating in the exponential zone ourselves and for all our clients. But the first thing I learned was how to work on what's called the geometry of business. It's very powerful when you understand it's the safest, fastest, easiest way to explode any business. And we created the 3 ways to grow a business and the 3 advanced ways. Very simple. People think there's a trillion ways to grow a business. There's only 3 major and 3 advanced. First is you increase the number of buyers. Second is you increase ethically the size of the sale and thus the profit it produces. Third is you increase the frequency of sale, assuming you have other products or a product that justifies it, or the utility, meaning you add other products or services, you introduce, you partner with these so that you can basically add more value while dramatically multiplying what's called the lifetime value of a buyer. Why do you do that? Well, first of all, the most expensive thing, the hardest thing, the most time-consuming thing you do is acquire the first sale. Yep. But at that point, you have plenty of opportunity if they trust you to upgrade it for many times more profit, not necessarily many times more revenue. And if you set in motion the right relationship, you have an easy chance of turning a one shot into recurring, which turns it into, you're like institutionalizing the relationship. And so we're very big on bringing to bear the geometry, but we have a model. I didn't bring it here, but we show people that if you had a business that had 1,000 buyers averaging $100 unit of sale, and they bought 2 times a year, and if you do the mental math, it's a $200,000 business. If you just increase those 3 categories 10%, it's not 10%. It becomes 266,000. It's literally a third increase. If you double those numbers, it's 800% increase. So you can use geometry to explode business growth very safely. I'm giving you the very simplistic concept. Also, when you extend the value of a buyer, it allows you to invest a lot more in the beginning in marketing, in sales commission, in adding bonuses, in advertising, because you've got a lot more value you're playing for. We teach people, Gene, how to be 3D investors rather than 2D. When you think about it, everything you do in life, everything you do in business is an investment. Every decision you make, every action you take, every dollar, every opportunity, every decision, every human capital deployment, it's all an investment. And most people don't know the yield they're getting or the risk that's associated. And that's a longer story. But most business owners, particularly SMBs, they're 2D investors. All they see is revenue minus expense equal profit. It's a very static concept. A 3D investor, entrepreneur, CEO sees an asset that has continuously recurring yield. They're playing a totally different game, and that's why they can run rings around linear thinking entrepreneurs. So the first thing you do is work on the 3 ways to grow a business. There's like 30 different mechanisms in each of those, and there's pretty universal, and we've done tons of work on that. The advanced 3 ways are a little bit more sophisticated. Every year you add 1 more product. Why 1 more product? Because if you have a lower price product, that can be put in front of your current one, and it's an easier first stage way to start a relationship, a lower hurdle. If it's a different kind of product, you can add it at the point of sale to multiply profit. If it's an expensive product, you can add it at the end to double or redouble the lifetime value. The second is you penetrate a new market or niche every year. The third is you acquire a new business every year, not a brand new one, but a business. You can acquire competitors, obviously. You can acquire complementary businesses, things people buy before, during, after, because you can make a lot of money from that. And if you have the one before, it gives you preemptive access to a buyer long before your competitors. You can buy something they buy instead. Now, that sounds a little bit wild, but let's say, as an example, that you and I were selling a supplement, Gene, for weight loss. Okay. So if somebody inquires and doesn't buy, they're probably inquiring because they have a weight issue. So if they don't buy our weight loss supplement, the odds are they will buy somebody's. They might buy a supplement. They might buy an alternative. They might buy exercise equipment, portion control food, group virtual training, personal training, recipes. And we've got a sunk cost investment in bringing them to us, whether we monetize them or not. If you're able to monetize them, that reclaims that cost and turns it into a profit center, a little esoteric. So those, and you can buy sales forces, you can buy URLs, you can buy databases, you can buy podcasts that reach your market, you can buy discussion groups. I can get very esoteric. So that's the next. The next thing that's the second. The next is how to work on the power of geometry even more, and how to render your business bulletproof as far as its sustainability. Many, many years ago, I was introduced to somebody who had a militaristic view of business. That sounds a little bit confrontational. It's not. It's actually very enlightened. If you and I were at war with each other, Gene, and I wanted to prevail, I would mount not one action, but an integration of lots. I might do surface-to-air missiles and bombs, and then attack drones, and maybe tanks, and finally, infantry. But I do a bunch of that, knock out your infrastructure, your communications, your airports, your railway, your TV stations, your newspapers. And I wouldn't care which of those delivered the final salvo. I just want to win. In business, most businesses, ironically, depend on one single source of revenue, and it's normally a follow the herd mentality. It's the same source, the same way as everybody else in their industry. Some are better, some are worse, but by doing the same thing the same way, all you can normally expect is an incremental improvement if you're better, and a diminishment if you're not. And if you look at it, we have a model. Again, I didn't bring my graphics, and I'm sorry, but it looks like a diving board. We call it the diving board theory of business because the support for the board is your one revenue source. The board is revenue, and a diving board is a propellant temporarily up, but then people go plummeting to ground. If anything happens with your one source, let's say you're using Facebook and they change the algorithm, or you're using a platform that people stop being excited about, or you're using electronic media, radio, television, and their numbers go down, or COVID or anything, you're screwed. So we try to get our clients to implement 9 pillars. We call it pillars. We call it the power Parthenon of geometric growth, because if you look at it graphically, it looks like the Parthenon in Greece, which has been around for eons. It was used as a weapons arsenal storage in World War II, and they had some internal bombs explode. It still exists. It's that strong. And we try to get them to add many different sources of revenue in addition to their main one. And to show you how limited most people are, and this is sort of fascinating, and it may or may not have total applicability to your audience, but it's a really profound little exercise. If I was doing a live group, which I used to all the time, I would ask, how many of you in this room can say that 20 to 100% of your business comes from word of mouth or referral? And half the room would almost all raise their hand. I'd say, stand up. And then I'd say, remain standing, Gene, if you have at least right now. First of all, I'd go around and ask, tell me the percentage, tell me the dollars. Quite profound. 30% $1 million, 100% 800,000, 40% 5 million. I'd say, okay, great, fabulous, impressive, congratulations. Then I'd say remain standing if you have at least one, ONE, one formalized, systematized referral generating strategy that you and your team adhere to constantly and interact with every buyer. 95% sit down. Then I'd say, okay, now I got 5% remaining. If you have at least two in place, 95% of the 5% sit down. When I say three, they all sit down, and I'll say, well, we've done work with 1,000 industries. We know of 125 ways to generate no cost, high converting, high value referrals. And if you have none and you only, and 20 to 100% of your business, which is substantial, comes from it, what would happen if you added three? They had only three more. Then I'll say, maybe I'm wrong. I'll use a Tony deal because you both have, two of you have Tony experience. I'd say I may be hallucinating, but I believe a referral generated buyer, Gene, buys quicker, negotiates less, buys more things, more profitable, more enjoyable, buys longer, is more valuable, refers more people, costs nothing. And almost everybody that doesn't have a referral system and has a huge portion of their business from referrals spend money on ads and trade shows and webinars and everything designed to get the outer periphery of first stage trust started, which is an onerous, long, arduous process to get from intrigue trust to committed trust to almost purchase trust to purchase trust. Even the first time, if you don't have any relationship, the first sale, you're still a little apprehensive. Whereas a referral generated buyer buys instantly, trusts you, buys, negotiates less. And that's just one little part of this Power Parthenon. So the next, the third one is the Power Parthenon, and it is literally having multiple sources. And when you have multiple sources, two or three things happen. One, you can reach somebody with your normal source, and it's not quite enough to move them over the hump to commitment. But if you are able to access them through other sources that come at them differently and that they trust, it can make the difference. Or some of these sources will penetrate markets you can't reach in different ways. I can get deeply into it, but I want to be very quick because I know we're on a timeline. So number one, preeminence. Number two, 3 ways to grow a business, advanced 3 ways. These are all actually working on ethical leverage points. Even preeminence is leverage at a level you can't comprehend. The fourth is it's called the 9 drivers of exponential profit explosion. And what I did was, when I was a little younger, give me 1 second. Pardon me. I spent a lot of time thinking about the revenue generating side of a business. And I said, what are the fastest, easiest, safest little levers you could pull that would have the biggest upside? By the way, a little parenthetical point that I forgot to make. All of our personal life, Gene, Jim, Mo, has been enhanced by levers, screwdrivers, wheelbarrows, crank that open and close windows, push buttons on cars, car jacks, pop tops on beer and Coke cans. Those are levers, and there's just hundreds of them that have benefited and enhanced our life. But in business, we've always had many, many, many levers. We just don't even recognize what they are, let alone how powerful small shifts can be in them. So I want to know, what are the best levers that are the safest, easiest, but if you make a change in them, it profoundly changes for the better the outcome. And I came up with 9. Let's see if I told him to go get it for me because I didn't know you were going to ask. So rather than try to remember them all, I'll just read them to you and we'll go through them. So the first is marketing. You change your marketing, you change your results. It could be the market you target, the way you target, the proposition you target, the way that you articulate it, the way you prove your proposition. It can be the credibility you give them. It can be risk reversal. It can be bonuses. It can be prices. Each one of those, believe it or not, has a meaningful enhancement, not combined, but separately. I've seen a change in a headline 5 times the result. I've seen a change in the position, double the result. I've seen a change in how you prove the superiority or the comparability value of yours improve 50%. I've seen adding or changing the risk reversal another 100%. I've seen testing one price or the other be up to 5 times higher. I've seen adding a bonus be, double. So there's all these factors. There's one thing, marketing can change the market, can change the media, can change the message, you can change all these variables. Same thing with selling. We tested 33 ways once, Gene, Jim, Mo, of greeting somebody at the front door of a furniture store, and one of them tripled conversion with an average higher selling price or average size order and profit. But if you don't know those things, you just go into things with conjecture, thinking, okay, I'm going to do it this way, not thinking it's not necessarily the highest, best, most safest, most profitable way. So the next is, so first is marketing. The next is strategy. Most companies are very tactical. I have a story, but it takes too long to share, but it's two people that do the same thing. One does it tactically, makes a little bit of money, decides it's not profitable, quits. The other does the same thing strategically, loses a little money on the first sale, but makes $25 million in year one by understanding what to do strategically. Big difference, big difference. And Tony's people have gotten me doing strategy for them because they really understand the value of being a strategist. I'm doing it for a big deal they're doing. The next is your business model. By changing the business model, you could change the whole dynamic of your business. And I mean, I could do hours on this, but I'm just going through it lightly. The next is distribution channels. If you can double, triple the number of sources you get your revenue from, it's sort of a derivative of the Power Parthon, it can be incredible. The next is process, systems, procedures, and that has to do with two things. Variability, if you have a lot of people performing, for example, if you have 8-10 salespeople and some are doing $1 million a year and some are doing 100,000, you got to figure out what the differential is, who excels at what. And there's methodologies we've created to bring the variability of the differential down and raise the performance of everybody. Again, I'm just showing you, I'm not getting into the depths of it, but it's pretty provocative. The next is relationship. And you'll see we've done billions of dollars with a B by figuring out who already has access to the audience you want that you can partner with, who's got methodology you don't have the budget to buy, but would share with you for a share of the performance increase, the profit or the savings. I can go on and on. I can go, there's a bunch more on this. And the last, I'm not giving you all of them. The last one is ideology, your belief system. If you don't believe this kind of nonlinear, but it's actually super logical way of thinking is valuable, then you won't do anything with it. So that's the third one. Fourth one, let's see. We did preeminence 3 ways, 9.
That was the 5th one, Jay.
Okay, let me see what the rest is. I haven't done this for a long time. I got too many methodologies, guys. I hope this is valuable because
This is incredibly valuable. And while Jay pulls that up, I want to thank Gene for that great question. And I want to welcome everyone to the LA Leadership Week, where we are redefining what a traditional news company does for society by changing the status quo and encouraging leadership and quality of character. Jay Abraham, please.
Yeah, okay. I found the other 2. So the 6th one is, we call them the sticking point solutions. Again, I try to think through what are the highest and best ways to dramatically and permanently improve qualitative, not just performance, but qualitative performance with the least amount of time, effort, risk, or investment. And that's an overriding premise of everything. So we created the 9 sticking points, and these were the most prevalent reasons we saw businesses get stuck. And we also saw a lot of successful businesses that we felt were successfully stuck, accepting better than average market growth, when in fact the same time, effort, access to market, capital, human capital could have produced many times that. And we identified them. I'll just read what they are because it takes too long to go through them. But one is, if you're stuck losing out to the competition, if you take the 3 or 4% of events that are acts of God you can't control, the other 97% are the result of actions you take, decisions you make or don't make, factors, forces, elements, principles, drivers in business and life you either harness or you let whipsaw you. And everything is cause and effect. There's a reason you don't get the business your competitor gets. If you don't know it, you better figure it out. It could be your competitive inferiority. There's an interesting concept. This is pretty funny. I'm having an ADD moment, but it's a fun one. So we always say that in business, there's three things you always have to do. You want to make irresistible propositions, unbeatable offers, and gain absolute ethical advantage. Because if you don't, what you're doing is making beatable propositions, irresistible offers, and gaining disadvantage. So you have to understand clearly what that means vis-a-vis this thing I talked about earlier, value to the other side. And then you got to overlay it with what are they already getting in value from whoever they're dealing with. And one of the biggest competitors that you're always dealing with that most people don't acknowledge is procrastination, equivocation, uncertainty, limited budget, and fear of where I'm going to allocate it. And you got to understand, I'm giving a lot of different things. So the first is, why are you losing out to the competition? Many reasons, we get into that. The second is, if you're stuck not selling enough, why? Well, one is you don't understand consultative selling. Two is you're not sourcing enough locations. Four is your value prop and your risk reversal isn't compelling. Fifth is that you don't have any understanding of, as I said, what the definitions are to your market. I could go on and on and on. Fourth or sixth, you don't have a lead generating consistent pipeline. You're doing things intermittent, episodic. But when you figure out what all these are, very logical, they're super logical when they're explained. The next is that you have erratic business volume. Why do you have erratic business volume? Because you don't understand. There's 5 forms of, I haven't done this for a long time, 5 forms of business wealth creation. First is the ability to have consistent, ongoing current income, current sales, current buyers. The second is to know you've put in place certainty about future buyers. The next is windfall, where you get, we have 3 categories of uncovering windfall profits that are just sitting in what you're already doing and who you're already doing it with, and inactive buyers and people who bought everything, and your sales force and your distribution channel. It's a longer story. The next reason you don't have consistent, I was going to talk about wealth. The fourth is psychic wealth. If you're not getting if you're not getting joy because you're in control, then it's very suboptimal. We believe that either your business works harder and harder for you, or you work harder for it. It's just that simple. And the last one is asset value. The same effort, same time. All these things can produce X income, 10X income, predictable future, and it can create an asset that people will stand in line to buy. Most small businesses aren't sellable. It's a lifestyle as opposed to really building a sustainable enterprise. And it's just a shift in thinking. That's the third one. I'm almost done. And you can stop me anytime, because I haven't done this for a long time. It's sort of fun. Are you stuck failing to strategize? I went earlier, most small, medium businesses are very tactical. If you're tactical, everything you do is static, whereas tactics should only be deployed, used when they advance or enhance the big game plan. We have a concept called the Business Hypergrowth Playbook, and it's designed to show that business is a contact sport. You can either play just to be a participant. You can play to win some of the games. You play to win most of the games. You can play to win the championship. You have a playbook. The playbook gives you the game plan. The game plan has the flexibility of being changed. You can't build a playbook unless you understand your competition. This is very fascinating. When I get clients, first thing I do is have them complete a 200-question, very deep assessment that asks what they already know or don't know about their business and their competitor's business. Most people can only answer half of them, and those are feeble. But when it comes to intelligence about their direct and indirect competitors, the ones buying the same thing or alternatives, they don't know squat. They don't know why people buy from them. They don't know clearly what their marketing advantage is, what they stand for, how they do, why people buy from them and not my client. And I am shocked. How can you win a game when you don't even know what the strengths, weaknesses, and probable strategies of your competition? It makes no sense. So it's failing to strategize. We can get deep in that. The next one is, sorry, I've looked at it. if you're stuck with costs eating up your profits, then there are many sides of a business you can move from fixed to variable. We just did about an hour and a half before I started this, an experimental briefing on power partnering, strategic alliance, joint venture, co-branding, a bunch of things like that. And the whole key was not just on the revenue side, but any resource impairment you have, a limitation. We have a program we did years ago. It's called the Unlimited Business Checkbook. And the premise is if you have a resource limitation, somebody else has it, and there's always a way to gain access. The greatest example is a fun story. Years ago, Gene, when I was in the seminar business, younger, I went to China when China was a friendly place to go, and I helped a lot of very nice entrepreneurs. And the first time I went, we did a huge program, very expensive, 1,000 people, and I always did Q&A at the end. And somebody came to the mic and said, "What do you do if you're too small and the bank won't lend you money to grow?" And I said, "Tell me more." The guy said, I'm a small local motorcycle manufacturer. Now, only in China, with 100 million population in a city, would you be local? And he said, "If I could get money, I'd go all over Asia. I'd open a factory. I'd put offices in every country. I'd hire salespeople, recruit dealers, and sell motorcycles everywhere." And I said, "Well, what's the problem?" And he got really mad. "I told you they won't give me money." I said, "You don't need money. Your problem is always the solution to someone's bigger one. They just don't know it." I said, "Go all over Asia, do a road trip, find somebody in a complementary, non-competitive field who's got a huge factory, who's already got representation, got salespeople, got offices, got dealers and partners." It took me 2 minutes. 15 months later, I came back and did another seminar. This young man now is at the mic again. Instead of being like that, he's smiling like the Cheshire Cat. And he said, "I did what you said." And you know this, Gene. Jim, you may not know. All day long in my life, I'm just answering questions, solving problems, strategizing, untangling Gordian knots. I didn't remember a thing, but he told me. And I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I went all over Asia. When I got to KL, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, I found Asia's largest lawnmower manufacturer. They had a huge factory, underutilized second shift. I made a deal with the guy. I brought the tool and dies, and if you don't know what those are the forms that build the parts that are assembled into the product, in this case, a motorcycle. They had offices in 10 countries. They had sales forces in every one. They had thousands of dealers. He said I had to train the people to build them. I had to go and train the salespeople to recruit the dealers. I had trained the dealers to merchandise and sell. He said in our first year together, we both netted $20 million. I mean, I've done this all day long, but somebody's the solution. So if your costs are eating up, there's many ways to do that. If you're stuck doing what's not working, I mean, Einstein said it, it's the definition of insanity. We basically question people. Why are you doing this? What else have you tried? How well is it working? What kind of yield are you getting for the opportunity? What kind of risk are you getting? They just keep doing things over and over again. And I came to fame, and Tony used to always, he would advocate this and he would extol this. I created, when I was younger, something called funnel vision versus tunnel vision. And it was an accident. I came from the mail order business when I was very young, and mail order was very disciplined. They were doing testing, variability, risk reversal, unique selling proposition. They knew what's called allowable acquisition cost. They did all kinds of things that lifetime value that nobody in the then brick and mortar world knew. And I was a lowly player, but I was sort of an emissary, the one-eyed man in the land of the blind. And I was able to bring that knowledge over to all the rest of the world. And I thought I was brilliant. I was bright, but I wasn't brilliant. I was just an emissary. Well, then I started realizing the power of how most other businesses in other industries do things totally different, not better or worse, but totally different way of selling, marketing, strategizing, business model, everything. And if you could take elements from outside an industry, where in that industry, everybody does things the same way, you give people profound advantage. And that's one of the things that happens when what you're doing isn't working and what you're doing is what everybody else does. You stop doing it and you figure out what they're not doing. The next is being marginalized by the marketplace. You're marginalized for many reasons. You're not preeminent. You don't have a significant advantage. You don't have a significant risk reversal. You don't have, you don't understand your market better than others. You're not as valuable in terms of their definition of value as the competitor or alternatives. I'll give you the others, and then we can either stop or I can do the rest, because there's one more and it's quite profound, but it doesn't matter. The 8 is you stuck with mediocre marketing. Most notably, yes. I don't want to even go there. It's too long of a question. The 5 is are you stuck doing it yourself? I mean, creative collaboration is the defining attribute of the most successful companies in the 21st century. A lot of entrepreneurs are very autocratic. They're not dictatorial, though some are, but they don't recognize that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You don't want to be the smartest. You want much brighter people. And also, you don't want to hire mediocrity. You want to hire the best and cry only once when you have to agree to pay them, because a superstar will perform so many times better than a mediocre, and they aren't going to screw it up. And they're going to make you better, and they're going to make everybody better, because they're going to be demonstrate through show me, not tell me. It's just so profound. So that's that one. The last one I'll just tell you very easily. It's power partnering, strategic alliances. We've created billions of dollars by figuring out who else already had access to the market, the credibility, the trust, the database, the salespeople, the brand, and partnered with them. I built Icy Hot from nothing to a huge company almost in a year by finding 1,000 media sources who would let us run ads and only pay for results. I built a seminar company for myself when I was younger, and we did $250 million. And I had partnerships with 40 newsletters, Tony, Success Magazine, Entrepreneur In Flights. I had partners in Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, China, Vietnam, UK, France, I can't remember, Switzerland, all over the world. We built an investment firm that was only doing 300 grand when we started, and we got them to 500 million by getting partner investment newsletters to recommend them. So it's about all kinds of ways to use other people's relational capital and do power partnerships, strategic alliances, joint ventures, co-branding, and just blow up your business with almost no external investment or risk. Those are those. If you have time, I can do anything else you want to talk about, or we can stop there.
Giftfromjay.com, giftfromjay.com. Jay Abraham has graciously given this community an incredible gift. So if we're just scratching the surface here with Jay Abraham, and as we move on to the next segment, I want to thank Jim and Gene, my colleagues here on the stage. I have just one final question for Mr. Jay Abraham in the couple of minutes that we have with him, and that's that, Jay, I just want your opinion on something. And first of all, before I ask the question, I want to let you know that the work you see here at the LA Tribune is strongly influenced by you. In fact, something I learned from you directly was that the biggest breakthroughs happen outside of the scope of the industry that you're in. And so what we've done here at the LA Tribune is taken the Jay Abraham philosophy and meshed together the newspaper industry along with the personal development industry, and essentially birthed something that previously did not exist. So I wanted to take a chance to thank you for that. Cool. And the question I have for you, sir, is as you can see.
Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
Our newspaper, Jay, is focused on positivity, leadership, and the good in the world. In fact, what statistics tell us, Jay, is that for every one piece of negative news or one piece of positive news in America, there's at least 17 pieces of negative news. Or for every one piece of solution-based news, there's at least 17 that are problem-based. And the work at the LA Tribune and the work that we're doing with the Leadership Week is to help bridge that gap. So in closing, how important is the work at the LA Tribune to bring more positive news, more leadership principles to the American society, please?
Well, I mean, Mo, conceptually, it sounds very impressive. If you and I spend some time and I understand it better, I can answer it more granularly. But I think anybody that is on a mission to bring qualitative betterment societally is somebody that should be should be lauded. Again, I don't have enough context to answer deeply, but it sounds like your work is meritorious. I think there's so many people out there that could be so much more successful, impactful, happier, healthier, and their lives could be so much better enriched. And richness, by the way, is denominated not just in monetary terms. It's fulfillment, it's satisfaction, contribution. And if you're on a mission to make that possible, it seems very meritorious. As I say, maybe when you're done with your leadership process, maybe I'm going to be in Europe for a while, but when I return, maybe you and I can spend some time and I can gain a better appreciation of what you're doing, and then I can be even more laudatory. I don't know enough about it other than to say it appears that what you're doing has a very meaningful contributory value societally. And if you're on that kind of a mission and you're doubling up and trying to compound the contribution, it would be very valuable to people that are looking for authentic answers. And a lot of people are silently begging not just to be led, but to get this connection made, because they're driven to want more in terms of fulfillment, contribution, success, impact, but they don't know that's even what they're striving for. And if they do, they don't know who they can trust. So it's sort of interesting, but it sounds like what you are doing is very intriguing and impressive. And at a time when you and I have the opportunity, I'd love to know a lot more and get maybe deeper and see where you are and see if there's some really wonderful things in it that might be worth us spending a lot more time trying to develop.
Certainly look forward to that. giftfromjay.com. Thank you very much, Mr. Jay Abraham, for being a part of the movement that we are creating here. Much love and respect to you. We're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and then we'll be back to our next segment. I look forward to that conversation in person, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.